Incest in my, I am sorry to everybody if you guys get triggered by what I'm gonna say, but incest is ideologically not wrong if the two individuals consent and this happens as an adult.
She says that incest isn't ideologically wrong. The real question is, what is this ideology? Clearly, it's not coming from religion. And if your morality isn't coming from religion, then where it is coming from? From science, from philosophy, from empathy, or our humanity? And if that's so, then which branch of science? Which branch of mathematics, or biology, or evolutionary psychology? If it's coming from philosophy, then which philosopher's philosophy we should take as the standard ideal for morality? Should we take Nietzsche's nihilism, Bentham's utilitarianism, Aristotle's golden mean, or his virtue ethics? Then what? If it's from mathematics, then what kind of calculations do we use to quantify good or evil? Or because it is very abstract, intangible, so there are no quantifiable way to measure good and evil. You cannot measure evil through a test tube or see them using a microscope. And if it's empathy or humanity, which is very subjective because our level of empathy varies from person to person, then whose empathy should be idealized and used as the standard for ideal moral values? Let's start with science, okay? If you say that our morality should come from naturalistic perspective or evolutionary naturalism, then crimes like rape, murder, infanticide won't remain a crime because they are very common in nature. If your morality is coming from physics, then whatever you do should not matter because ultimately we are all just some rearrangement of carbon atoms. If your morality which is coming from mathematics, then tell me how many angles, sides, or what's the formula of evil? It's total nonsense. Then what about philosophy? If you think that utilitarianism is real morality, then Bentham's classical utilitarianism, then crimes like gang molestation won't remain a crime and won't be considered immoral because utilitarianism is fundamentally about maximizing pleasure for maximum number of people, right? Then in crimes like gang rape, where 9 men is molesting one girl, here majority are maximizing the pleasure for the cost of suffering of one woman. Now they'll say that they must be consenting. They believe in this weird philosophy that anyone can do anything as long as they're adults and they're consenting. Then how do you justify cheating, incest, suicide? And if the one committing suicide is an adult, and if it's his body and his choice, then what's wrong with that? Now, some other liberals will say, no, that's evil because there must be no harm. They follow the harm principle very strictly. But they'll quickly shift to utilitarianistic principles when the harm, although is relatively more and it maximizes pleasure, for example, like alcoholism. Alcoholism is very addictive and it's very fun to consume, right? But it's at the same time responsible for numerous deaths worldwide. And they'll also say that even though it causes so many deaths annually, it's still okay as long as the person who's consuming is sensible. The question is, who and how do you dictate whether one's sensible or not? And shouldn't you avoid it at all costs since you have agreed to harm principle? And at the same token, shouldn't you avoid things like incest, cheating, and suicide, for example, because it creates most harm to your health, to your psychological health, or in it creates damage in society or in your family in general. So this is the contradictions and problems with their 21st century Eurocentric liberalistic values. And yes, this is the problem with our argument. Us humans cannot choose what's moral, and that's why God sent us revelations and messengers. In fact, our moralities have many contradictions and flaws. That's why God said that if Quran was from anyone other than God, there would have been many contradictions. And from 7th century to this day, none was successful to find two verses from Quran that contradict each other, which points out the authenticity of this statement and the fact that these cannot be from anyone other than the Almighty, the all-knowing Creator. All I want to say is this: if your morality isn't coming from religion, it's coming from your feelings or your intuition. Our feelings, our intuition is subjective, so by definition, it cannot be the objective truth. God didn't reveal Quran and chose Islam so that you can follow your own desires, because Islam literally means submission to His will, and therefore Islam is the haq, the objective truth, the straight path. And by this, I'm going to end my video. Assalamu alaikum.